Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. 3 things you will learn in this episode. Number 1, how neuroscience and teamwork are connected. Number 2, what the best leaders are learning about happiness. And number 3, why emotional fitness is essential to running high-performance teams. Bear with me as I give you this incredible guest bio. My friend, Paul Zak, is a high-impact scientist, author, and speaker. Paul has been on a quest to understand the neuroscience of human connection, human happiness, and effective teamwork. Paul is in the top 0.03% of all most cited scientists globally. He has given talks in 30 countries, including NATO Supreme Headquarters, Harvard, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and so many more. His 2 decades of research extending the boundaries of behavioral neuroscience have taken him from the Pentagon to Fortune 50 boardrooms to the rainforest of Papua New Guinea. Paul is a 4-time tech entrepreneur, and in 2017, he founded Immersion Neuroscience, a software platform, otherwise known as NAS, and that allows anyone to measure what the brain loves in real time. And the findings are used to improve outcomes in entertainment, education, advertising, and emotional health. That is a mouthful. Welcome to the show, Paul.
What the heck? Thanks, Lyndsay. This is going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. And I got to say, I am so happy you're here. You're going to give us such a great perspective on why these things matter. So I start every show the same way. And the first thing I ask is, would you please share your story?
Oh, well, I'm a Martian, so I have spent my career trying to figure out what the humans are doing. I find them to be a fascinating species. The difficulty with these humans is that if you ask them why they do what they do, they can't really tell you.
Yeah.
And so we began running experiments in my lab 25 years ago, measuring brain activity while people made decisions. So I think decisions are a really interesting way to look at the diversity of the human condition, right? You like chocolate ice cream, I like vanilla. That's trivial, but like, why? That's kind of interesting. And if you ask me, like, I don't know, it's like vanilla, right? So I think pairing decision making in a well-defined, objective way with measuring brain activity gives us insight into how interesting and variable humans are. So first takeaway for listeners is that humans are weirdos. We're all weirdos because most of our brain processes are hidden from us. They're unconscious. And we have factors like lack of sleep or your dog died or whatever that affect our behavior at work that we're not aware of because these processes are unknown to us consciously or mostly unknown to us. And so if you're a leader, lesson number 1 is people are going to be inconsistent. And that's what humans do. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It means they're good people having a bad day almost always.
So I know you have an incredible background, but that just didn't start out of nowhere. I mean, what drove you to want to jump into this realm and really uncover this stuff? Was there a moment that made you say, this is where I need to be? This is why I have to do this?
Yeah, thank you, Lyndsay. I was very, when I first finished my PhD, very interested in why there's poverty. Why have the Nordic countries been rich for 1,000 years?
Yeah.
Denmark and Norway. The US has been rich, England. Why are there actually poor countries? And in doing that work, I sort of stumbled on this idea of interpersonal trust
Mm.
and started doing work on where does trust come from? Why do you trust strangers? So, what we found is in rich countries and countries that have high living standards, what we call generalized trust, my ability to trust a stranger and do a transaction with him or her is very high. And in in poor countries, trust is very low.
Yeah.
And so then you go, okay, well, I need to really understand trust, which means I need to understand why humans never cooperate with each other, which leads me into teamwork, which leads me into all kinds of pro-social behavior. So for me, finding the brain mechanism that promotes or inhibits things like trust or cooperation allows me to have very precise um, prescriptions on how to increase or decrease it. So I don't want to just observe the behavior and go, hey, trust is great. Everyone knew that already. That's not
Yeah,
interesting.
right.
I understand where trust comes from, where cooperation comes from, why some people and some businesses perform at very high levels and others don't. That seems useful.
Mm. Well, you're using all the words that I love and things that we talk about all the time, trust and leadership and happiness. And like you, I'm fascinated by these kinds of things and why they happen the way they do. I wish my brain was half as brilliant as yours. However, take us through some of your learnings about happiness and why what are leaders learning about happiness and how is it impacting how they lead?
So let's start with some prelims.
Mm,
The war for talent has long been over. Talent has won. All right. If I'm super concerned about fertility rates around the world, so most of the developed world is shrinking.
yeah.
We're running out of humans. So the people who are working for you, you want to keep them working for you. So number one. Number two, when you have high performers, they are super rare. Let's create an environment where they can really flourish. And
Yeah.
to me, that means professionally, personally, and spiritually. I don't know what spiritual means. I don't have a good word for the third part, but besides work and family, like what else gives you energy?
Yeah.
If your employee doesn't have that thing that he or she loves doing, volunteering at the kids' schools or hiking, they're actually going to just degrade over time. Their what I call their emotional fitness will degrade. So that's the first step. It's important. Number two, I think there's been a confusion in a lot of business people's minds about the role of happiness and productivity. So the older view is that happy employees are more productive. Actually, it's the opposite, is that when you're productive, you really feel great. Like, man, I did something hard and important today. So, from a leadership perspective, we really need to think about creating those challenge goals for employees where they have the satisfaction of doing something important. It was
Mm.
just making people happy, then, just have Taco Tuesday every week. Actually, that doesn't work,
No,
right?
that's
So,
not.
so it's a little more complicated than just be happy. On the other hand, as you know from your background and also the work I've done, like in consulting, if you have a bad boss, if you have a toxic environment, all you want to do is look at your watch and get the heck out at five
Right, it's
o'clock.
just
You're
a
like, man,
job.
I got to go somewhere else. And so, because we are social creatures, I mean, anatomically, our brains are designed to connect to other people. So, working in groups is totally natural. That's what social creatures do. Bees, humans, ants. We like it. It's not unnatural at all. But as social creatures, we follow leaders. So, as you know, when you have that leader who is toxic, who is screaming at people, who is whatever, that's a very poor leadership approach because, again, fear is a good short-term motivator, but very poor long-term motivator. If I love the people I work with in the philia sense, and I mean this in a weird way, if I care about them, if I think we're doing something important, I'll perform at my best.
I think what I heard you say, and tell me if I'm tracking right on this, is there's a difference between happiness and psychological safety. And at least the way I see the world, your point to if everybody's happy, they're not going to work as hard, and it's just people are going to be like, yeah, I did it, I'm good.
Right.
I'll take the next day off. Versus when you have a psychologically safe environment, a place where people can take risks and be challenged and try to do hard things, they're more inspired to do so, and they will stretch and do things that they've never done before. So I think people can confuse, and tell me your thoughts if
Right.
I'm go
I
ahead.
think you've confused them. So to me, psychological safety is table stakes.
Mhm.
You're not psychologically safe at work. So I'm going to always use put my neuroscientist hat on,
Yeah.
Lyndsay. If you're not psychologically safe, you're burning all kinds of neural bandwidth on just
Okay.
like, how the hell do I survive so someone doesn't scream at me?
Yeah.
So I've had a couple screaming bosses. Like, I'm like you, I'm a grinder. I will work 15 hours a day if I need to,
Sure.
but don't yell at me because you're upset. I mean, I don't respond to that. All I do is think
Yeah.
like, man, you got issues. Like, don't take them out on me. That's not appropriate. So psychological safety is table stakes. Without that, I can't perform at my best. But what
Mm.
I'm really talking about is moving beyond this notion of happiness into satisfaction, this longer
Yeah.
term goal. Like happiness, if you want to be happy, I don't know, take cocaine or something. I don't know. That's not a very good solution. But if I want to be satisfied, I really have to thrive on all those
Yeah.
aspects of my life. So here's, I think, something maybe takeaway number two. People get more of these peak satisfaction moments at work than they do at leisure.
Mm.
Holy crap. It's not just Americans, by the way,
Wild.
because we kind of love working because we have so many more options than, say, Europeans or other people do. So yeah, it means I can create these challenges at work that I'm going to reach and then go, oh, holy crap. When I go home, hey, what'd you do today, honey? Man, I had this terribly hard project
Yeah.
and I brought in Bob and Sue and we solved it by 5 p.m. It was amazing. My client's so happy. Like that is a person who's really thriving.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure, psychological safety. I think what's really interesting is there are countries that are starting to understand this. In late 2022, Australia passed a number of laws requiring that companies demonstrate they have emotionally safe workplaces.
How do they do that?
Well, that's the issue. How do they do it? So,
Yeah.
the reason I know that is because my group, Immersion Neuroscience, has created technology
Yeah.
that measures both psychological safety and these peak
Mm,
satisfaction moments neurologically. And so now we have a continuous, objective, comparable measure, as opposed to what, giving you a survey every day? Do you feel safe
no,
today? I don't, what are you going to do? Right?
no,
You'll be like, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. I don't even care.
that's right.
But by looking at objective data and then comparing, hey, our location in Miami, people are doing great, and location in Cincinnati, not so good. So what's going on? So again, if I'm an HR leader or any leader, I should find out, hey, what is Miami doing so we can copy it, and what isn't Cincinnati doing, or what are they doing wrong? So let's fix that again, because we're in
Mm,
this war for talent, which means we have a war for productivity, right?
yeah.
So bad talent, bad productivity, poor growth, poor sustainability.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying the piece on psychological safety. And I love that you said it's table stakes, but the problem is it doesn't exist in so many places. And that's the piece that is so troubling to me. That's the work that I'm trying to do is make this the norm because a lot of leaders never had it, so they don't know how to provide it. And though I think it is necessary for good business, I wish more leaders understood that that was something they needed to do.
For sure. And I
Yeah,
think when we see turnover rates, to
yeah,
me, turnover is a really good indicator of the quality
100%.
of a culture. And so when turnover is high, you've got issues and you've got to really implement these policies. Again, people are rare. I know we have some layoffs now, but that's going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
resolve itself pretty quickly. Even that unemployment is still pretty low. So one way we found to increase psychological safety is greater autonomy for employees. And we're certainly seeing that post-COVID. We always had sort of telecommuting, but now, remote work is pleasant. The downside is I'm not getting the social interactions that are so pleasant at work, like
yeah.
bumping into people and going to lunch and all that, which is actually also important. But that autonomy where, like, don't micromanage me. Same
Ugh.
with you, Lindsay. Like, you get your work done. You're a high
Yeah,
performer. I'm a high performer.
yeah.
I don't need you to be looking over my shoulder. Just leave me alone. I'm good at
I
what I
know.
do.
I
And
know.
when I
I
have
think that
bosses, yeah,
it's
want to
such
micromanage you, you're like, dude, do you know who
it,
I am? Like, I've been doing this for 20 years. Like, I'm good. Just let me be.
it's such an insecure style of leadership, and I constantly tell people, be the leader you always wish you had. And if
Mm,
someone is standing over your shoulder and holding you hostage and managing every part of your process, what the hell are you doing there? Like it's
yeah.
there's no point. So yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about emotional fitness. What is it? Why do you need it? How do you get better at it? Can you go to an emotional gym? Talk to me about that.
Right. So emotional fitness is your ability to really thrive. That is to have these peak valuable moments neurologically. So in the last, I don't know, 3 years, we've published research out of my academic lab showing how your brain values social emotional experiences. And we've shown that if you get enough of these, in particular 6 per day, then you're actually building up your emotional fitness. I think this is sort of resilience. I've got
Yeah.
this nice buffer where when, life or work kicks me in the gut, then I'm, not going to fall over. I'm like, that sucked, but okay, I'll move on. So conversely, we find that when people are not emotionally fit, they're actually not thriving, they're not engaged in life, then they have depressive symptoms. And so we have this real time, by the way, free app that's a neurologic indicator that gives people goals to build their emotional fitness. So we have corporate wellness programs, human resource departments using this to ensure that people are thriving in this broad sense. Again, giving people at work challenge goals, making sure they're hitting those goals, and also making sure you're getting some of those peak moments outside of work, right? So if I'm so beat up at work, there's the old, I mean, it's been gone for a long time, but the old investment banking,
Mm.
trope where, you're working 120 hours a week and you never see your spouse, then you get divorced. And, you know, That's been gone for a long time because no young people put up with that. I mean, again, they have so much bargaining power because there's just not enough people. So, thinking about that again, professional peak experience, personal, and then again, spiritual or your avocation, whatever that is, what your leisure, whatever, what are you doing that really gives you great pleasure? And this is different than stress. Emotional fitness means that you are actually expending the energy, the metabolic energy, to really be deep involved in something. And work provides us that opportunity. So again, I've got to have enough emotional fitness for me to, enough psychological safety for me to be emotionally fit. But again, just table
Yeah,
stakes. So what do you love? So, I mean, finding out what you love doing and you find out two-thirds of that or three-quarters is at work. Okay, now you're an employee that's really, hitting on all cylinders.
I love that. I think we our social muscles have atrophied quite a bit from COVID. I see it mostly in my kids and kids that are younger. Ugh, they didn't get to learn a lot of the lessons at a really critical age that they really needed, and as a result, they would prefer to do self-checkout and only text somebody if they needed help and never have to speak to anyone. And so that ability to do small talk, that ability to show curiosity, and that ability to show genuine interest in someone else is scary to them. And that's a piece that we all as a society need to figure out. How do we help them get better at this? Some kids, my own kids, are forced into these situations all the time, so they're very used to it. But I would say to them, I said, if your friends can't make eye contact with us, that's a bummer. We
Right.
tell them, say, my parents really like when you look them in the eye. Like, put it on
But
us. I don't care.
but the good news is that the brain, term of art is plastic. It's able to
Yes.
adapt to these environments. And so when we see people who are emotionally fit, they are training their brains or have trained their brains to be present and to be emotionally open. And those are the two factors that make us better social creatures, make us someone want to date us or better family
Yeah.
members or better employees. And so by having goals and objective measures like, hey, yesterday not doing so well. So in our app, it will say suggestion. Hey, today, phone a friend, check in
Mm,
with a colleague, give someone a compliment, tell them how much you like them,
I
right?
love
So
that.
those are easy things that just remind us to do this. So here's a concrete example for listeners. Um, Again, because I'm a Martian and I'm always trying to figure out the humans, I run experiments on myself to see what
Yes.
happens. So many years ago, I have a well-known TED Talk from 2011, this is based on some research we did. I decided instead of shaking hands, I would pre-announce that I hug everybody. I
Yeah.
just tried this, and people just lit up. This is one of the best brain hacks I've ever discovered, and I don't know, less than 1% of the people go, "Oh, I can't hug because I'm socially anxious." Or that's fine. I can shake hands,
Hmm.
but I'll just hug everybody. And who do you hug? People you like, people you know,
Hmm.
And so all of a sudden, I'm sort of convincing your brain that I'm going to be your friend, I'm going to be your pal, and we're going to get along better. That's the first. Here's the second one. A couple of years ago, I decided if you're in a box with other humans, why don't we pretend that they're not there with us? And the box is called an elevator. So I
Hmm.
just started saying hi to people in elevators, and about 50% of the people kind of freak out, which sort of makes me happy for some weird reason. And the other half, you have this wonderful little 20-second conversation,
Yeah.
like in hotels, or you go, say, "Hey, where are you in from?" "Oh, I'm here from the Netherlands." "Oh my God, I was there in Amsterdam last year. And it was so much fun."
Yeah.
And you know, why don't we just be humans? Why don't we actually be social creatures? So I know you agree with this.
I do.
Do you have any hacks yourself that you've used to kind of
Yeah.
facilitate that connection?
Yeah, my big one, and you already said it before, is compliments. I'm
Mm,
really, really liberal with my compliments. And it could be something like, hair is on point today, or, I love that color on you,
yeah.
or I love how you spoke to that customer just a minute ago. Those little things completely refocus people's day. It puts wind in their sails that they didn't have, and it makes them feel seen. And I love doing that to people I don't know. I do it all the time to people I
Mhm.
do know. But I really think it's, especially when you mean it, I
All
I'm
right.
also painfully honest, so I'm not going to compliment you on your outfit if I think you look tragic. But
Right.
if you look great, I'm going to tell you. I
Sure.
just think
And you're
it's
recognizing them as a human being, not
right.
just as an employee. So, same thing in my lab. So here's hack number 4, which is um, use an adjective when you meet someone. Like we say, "Hey, Lindsay, how are you? How are you?" But if you say, "Hey, Lindsay, you look," adjective,
Yeah,
happy, sad, worried, tired. Now we have actually a much more
yeah,
emotional, deeper conversation. I'm recognizing you as a human being. So I have a woman who was a PhD student in my lab who's worked in my company for 10 years. Amazing woman. And one day she came in the lab at 8 a.m. or whatever, as a graduate student, and she's like walking on air. And for some reason, my PhD students are also kind of like my second family. I want them all to get married, have kids, and name them
yeah.
after me. And you know, you know how that works. And so anyway, she walked in, she was super happy. I'm like, you look so happy today. Like, what, you fall in love? Like, what's happening here? Like, you just, and she said, I've been running for the past 3 months. I've lost 15 pounds. I'm doing my first 10K in a couple of weeks, and I feel like $1 million. I'm like, well, you are just like glowing. Like,
Beaming.
you look
Yeah.
fabulous. Well, she has told me over many years how her name is Beth. Beth, if you're listening, hi. Uh, over many years, how much it meant that her supervisor just for 15 seconds recognized her having a great day. And how much does it cost me? 15 seconds, right? But the returns are so high. And again, I was authentic. It was
Yeah.
starting that conversation, right? So I think if you're a leader, you've got to have those short one-on-ones.
Yeah.
How you doing? Not just about work, because we're going to form relationships. And by the way, it's okay. You can go to happy hour with people
Right.
you who are, your direct reports. They're aware you're the boss. It's no big deal. Or
Yes.
you write the checks or whatever. But forming those relationships is so valuable.
Oh, I totally agree, Paul. And I teach this to the leaders that I coach. You have your business one-on-ones, your forecast calls, or whatever your metrics you're trying to measure, but you have to have those one-on-ones where you're addressing the 360-degree human. And if you are going to take the time to ask them who their children are, who their partner is, do they have pets, write it down. Because if you ask
Right.
them how Sam is and it's Sally, you sound like a real jerk later, and come on, make yourself look better, but it shows interest. And if you're smart enough to take a look at your phone, put it in your phone, that's bonus points. But
Right.
you're going to have a call with this person, look really quick, and you can say, hey, how's your son so and so? How's your daughter? How's your dog doing? I remember last time you were really stressed about him. That just is so small, but it is so meaningful. And what I always say is, when you become the leader, you are the topic of everyone's dinner conversations. Make
Right.
sure those conversations are good ones. And when you ask somebody, hey, how's your job? Their answer is likely about you. It is less about the company, and is the company culture matching with the values they have on the wall? Like, that's not what they're answering. They're answering their day-to-day experience. And do they feel that sense of autonomy, or do they feel micromanaged? Because
Mhm.
that is the true litmus test for how happy and ultimately how productive your people are going to be. So,
And I also think you put your finger on it earlier when you said it has to be authentic. You have to actually
yeah,
really care about this person, and that caring comes through. We can, read people who are lying to us
yeah,
very quickly. So if you're authentically interested in that person, then I want to advocate that we get rid of this awful, awful term, human capital.
mm,
You are not human capital. You're a human being, which means you're going to have good days and bad days. You have emotions.
yeah,
Stuff at home affects your work life, and stuff at work affects your home life.
yeah,
So if I see you as a human being who has um, many things to do in their lives besides work, then I'm recognizing that even high performers are going to have bad days. And sometimes people who are struggling are going to have great days. And so
yeah.
let's celebrate that. So I think we really need to celebrate our victories, celebrate these people around us, and also people who are struggling, who are not doing well. I have a chapter in my current book on this, on firing people. I fired,
Mhm.
I don't know, a lot of
Yeah.
people, but that's on me, right?
No,
I hired you. We had a conversation. We thought you fit in well here. I try to work with you, remediate you. I'm not talking about people who are stealing. I mean, that's just
no.
go and I don't care. But we've all tried to get better, and you just didn't fit in for whatever reason. And people have taken me to lunch many times after I say, I think you're done here. I think,
Yeah.
like you're a fine person. I'm happy to, recommend you for another job, but
Mhm.
we'll pay for another couple of weeks, look for another job. This is just not the place for you. And I'm sorry, my
Yeah.
my mistake. Like, I
But
thought you'd be great here.
the reason that that works so well for you, and I had to do the same thing. I had to lay people off. I had to fire people.
It
When
sucks.
you are, it's the worst. And I swore I would never get good at it, and I never did. But the reason that those interactions went as well as they did was because you were consistent in your style long before that. And when you lead with heart and you are constantly of that safe space, when I had to lay people off, they apologized like, "I'm sorry you have to do this." Oh my
Oh,
god, stop apologizing to me.
right. I
I'm
feel
changing
bad
your
enough,
life in
right?
the worst way, like, please. But what it
Right.
tells me is they knew who I was, they knew I was reading a script, and they knew it was not, something that I carelessly jumped into. It was something that was concerning to me and I didn't
Mhm.
really wanna do, but ultimately still stayed in touch with all of them, which is
Well,
really
that's the
cool.
thing.
Yeah.
And that's the key. So I create something I call the whole person review. The annual review is it's just a terrible
Oh,
thing.
terrible.
I should be coaching you. If I'm a leader, I should be coaching you every day, every week. You have milestones.
Right.
You know where you're at. So I want to repurpose the annual review, and I've worked with a lot of companies to do this, what I call the whole person review, which is once a year, we look forward, not backward. Backward's too late. Man, it's already done.
Can't
Forget
fix
that.
it.
So let's sit down and talk about your professional goals, your personal goals, and then your avocation, whatever you do outside. Do you have a hobby? Do you have time
Yeah.
for that? Are you jogging? Are you working out? Are you sleeping well?
Mhm.
And so oftentimes in these whole person reviews, someone feels like, I've kind of maxed out here. I'm like, okay, great. Where
How
would
can
you
we
like to
help you
work?
get to the next place? Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to work at Meta or Google. I'm like, okay, I know people there.
Mhm.
So I'll recommend you to jobs there. Keep working here. You're awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so why would I do that? Because I'm such a sweetheart and a wonderful human. Or
Yes, you are.
now I have a guy at Google and I can call
Yes.
them up. Right. And
Yes.
so these high performers are rare. Let's keep them in our network. So
But
I have hundreds.
the
Yeah.
other thing that that does, and I have a dear friend who is a CEO of a company, he said in his entire tenure of his CEO, he only had one person leave. And that one person, she went to a competitor, they couldn't match what they were gonna give, and instead of getting mad about her leaving, he said, "You guys, we're gonna celebrate her. Let's get on a call, and
Yeah.
we are going to tell her how much she meant to us, all of the great things that she did that we see and recognize, and we're gonna make it so hard for her to leave, not because we wanna torture her, but
Right.
because she's gonna go to a competitor, and she's never coming after us." And
Right.
and she's always gonna say good things about us because we feel that way about her,
I
and
love that. And your
I thought
former
it was so
employees
great.
are the best people to
Yeah,
promote new employees to join your business. Like, hey, you used to work for
yeah,
Corporation ABC. And like, oh, it was awesome. They were so great. I don't
yeah,
regret leaving, but I got offered so much money, I had to go. And or my
no.
spouse got moved to Chicago, so we had to move. Like they should be your
Biggest
army of
advocates,
helpers.
yes,
So I'll give you a story. I worked a lot with Zappos, this very, online
yeah,
shoe and clothing seller, very famous for happy employees. And I mean, we did extensive experiments on them. My 2017 book called Trust Factor, they let me actually publish a bunch of those data, like took blood from their employees, measure brand activity while they're doing tasks, like
love it.
really intensive stuff. And we did this at a building kind of adjacent to their headquarters in Las Vegas. By the way, for listeners, if you want to see a really well-run culture, do the Zappos tour. It's in downtown Las Vegas. They'll pick you up in the airport. I think it's $10 a person. It's totally worth it. So anyway, I've been there a
Amazing.
bazillion times. So we were at an adjacent building, and people would be coming in after work or on the weekends, and they'd all be wearing like Zappos logo gear, like on Saturday when they're not working. So after a while, I started asking them, like, hey, what's the deal with wearing the Zappos sweatshirt? And they're like, we're a clothing company. We have a lot of swag. But they all said, I see myself as a Zappos person. Like those are
Mhm,
those values of Zappos are my values.
mhm.
Oh, you have an evangelist who works for you.
That's right.
So last I looked, Zappos was getting about 20,000 applications for every open position.
Yeah.
That's the kind of well-run culture I want to see everywhere.
What a beautiful, beautiful illustration, and I always kind of joke, free beer on Fridays and ping pong tables and swag are never that's not culture, that's not, anything that's going to move the needle in any way, shape, or form, but when you give out swag, if your people don't wear it, and if your culture sucks, it's going right in the Goodwill bin, but
Right.
if they don't wear it, that should be an indication there's something wrong because there is no
They're gonna
company pride.
Yeah. other hand, I'm a big believer in never fighting fair. So, I mean, I think people should be in the office at least a couple days a
Yeah.
week, even though we all can work remotely. And I think the autonomy of that's great. So if you want to have pizza and beer on Fridays at 5 o'clock,
Oh, it's fantastic.
do it.
It's not
Or,
a bad thing.
lunches.
It's just
No,
when
yeah.
everything
It
else is
doesn't replace.
lacking that
Right.
they if you think that's going to move the needle alone,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah,
Okay.
for example, many companies have unlimited vacation, like
Yes.
take a vacation, and it's almost never abused. In
No.
fact, I read recently, I think in Harvard Business Review, that companies that instituted choose your own vacation time, whatever, people are taking
Unlimited
less
PTO.
vacation time. So
Yes.
like, well, I really like working here. So, you know, again, it's that I'm getting so much satisfaction from doing something valuable. And right, work is always about service to others, service to your customers, service to your colleagues. And so we're social creatures, we're service beings, and so we like doing that. So let's talk about that service and understand that it's not about making money. Remember in the old days, Lindsay, like you go to a headquarters in New York and they'd have their stock ticker in real
Yep.
time.
Yep.
That's all gone. Like that is even Jack Welch, God bless him, has just passed away, said,
Mm.
yeah, it was a stupid idea. Don't try to manage your stock price. Create so much value for your customers
Yep.
and your employees that they love it and they're your raving fans. So my religion is CLV, customer lifetime value. Make
Yes.
that customer so happy, they're evangelists for you, they'll never leave, they're loyal,
And start with your employees because they
and
will
the
take care.
employees generate that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's change gears for a second. What inspires you?
Besides talking to you, you mean?
Oh, I mean,
Ah.
how good is that?
This is so much fun. Thank you for having me on. Um, what inspires me? So many things. I'm a very curious person, so I love solving problems. But I think I'm a four-time tech startup guy. As you said, I'm very well published academically. My success has been really, I think, being curious and figuring out how to implement projects, but also building teams to do that. So,
Mhm.
how can I run a company and run a big behavioral lab and teach and give public lectures? It's because I've built a
Team.
support group around me,
Mhm.
people who complement me, who I really, some of them just love, like I've worked with them forever. So, what gets me excited about seeing these people who are generally younger than me really performing amazing well, and they start teaching me so many things. Like, what's better than that?
I love that. What would you like your legacy to be?
I got this nickname from Fast Company, I don't know, 10 years ago, Dr. Love, because we work on oxytocin, this kind of chemical of attachment and caring and love. And I have a simple rule, which is for every interaction, I want to add love to the world. So I call
Mm,
that love plus. So when I look back on my life, I think, did I actually add love to the environment? Did I make someone's day better? And as you said, Lindsay, it's not that hard to do
mm,
if you just get out of your own damn way and just think about this other person for just a minute. And
mm.
so, yeah, if I added love to the world, then that's the best legacy ever.
Oh, I think you're well on your way, and I have a hashtag you can use. It's heartbeats, not head count. I was
Oh,
thinking about it earlier when we were in
so
the
good. I
show.
love that.
It's so good, right?
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Well, what's next is we have released this emotional fitness app. It comes out October 1st called Six. That's V2. V1 is already out. And it's free and it's going to be free forever. And I want 1 billion people in the next 3 years to measure their emotional fitness and grow as human
I
beings
love it.
as social creatures using our app. It's fun, it's gamified, it runs in the background all day and just tells you, links to your calendar, tells you what your best times of the day were. And you go, oh, talking to Lindsay, she's awesome. I should do more of that. And talking to Bob, I never get any value from that. So let me curate my life for
Yeah.
better emotional fitness, better happiness. And then we can start avoiding the mental health disorders. So I'm super concerned with young people like you have in your household that the young people are suffering. And if they don't have a way to measure their emotional health, they can't improve it. If it's
That's
just
right.
like, get better, don't be depressed, that doesn't help anybody. But you
Mm,
go, oh, here are the things I'm doing on my phone that show what builds up my emotional fitness. Let me do more of that, whether it's exercise, working out, seeing friends, as you said, doing things in person. Anything you add a social layer to will increase its social emotional value. And so do more stuff with other people.
So what's the app called and how can people find it? I mean, I assume it's Apple and Android and all the things.
Correct. It's everywhere. It's called Six, SIX. It's out October 1st, 2024, because this is going to be an evergreen show. And we're putting a lot of effort in. V1, we had people use and we didn't talk a lot about just to get
Yeah,
feedback. So you need 6 peak moments a day,
I love it.
emotional moments to be emotionally fit, well defined what
Mm.
that 6 means neurologically, and just pulls data from smartwatches and applies algorithms to figure out what really gives you value in life, what makes you happy.
Oh, it's brilliant. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. And how do people find you?
They can find me at our company website, getimmersion.com, immersion with an I. And if you're listening to Lyndsay, you must be awesome. So you can email me on that site. There's a contact form there, and I'd be happy to take any other questions or engage with people who are listening. So
Yeah, tell him we sent you. Tell him you heard him on the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. Paul, this has been a total joy. I could have gone on for another hour,
easy.
easy. I have so many more questions, so I'll have to have you back. Any fleeting last thoughts you have for the audience that you'd like to
I'm
share?
going to give one more hack, which
Yeah.
is because I'm trying to add love to the world, I try to end every conversation with the word service. And so I'll do that with you, Lyndsay. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be on with you, and I want to be of service to you in the future. So please stay in touch with me. Anytime I can be of service to you, I would be thrilled to do that. And
Oh,
so I think if we think of ourselves as service animals,
yeah.
then we're going to be better social creatures and we're really connecting to other people. And I mean that genuinely. Please, it's just a real privilege to spend time with you. So I'm happy to help you. Anytime you ask, I'll be there.
Oh, you're the best. Well, guys, you heard it from Paul, and you'll hear it again from me. If either of us can be of service to you, you know where to find me. You've got Paul's information. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Hopefully, we can help you with your teams and your leadership. Lord knows the world needs some more good leaders out there. So lead with heart, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode. Go follow Paul and have a great day. Lead with heart. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game-changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top-down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success, helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top-down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.